Thank you. Welcome back, Kitchen Sink family members. How are we? How are you? I am very well, thank you. If you are coming this way for the first time, my name is Clarissa Ranganai, better known as My Ranganai. And today we are looking at a subject matter that sort of would come naturally after having discussed growing old gracefully. And by the way, thank you. There's so much viewership on the past few videos. I truly am grateful. Thank you so much. And I met a number of ladies saying, I'm sharing the videos I shared with so and so. Thank you. Let's keep doing that. We are growing steadily and I'm grateful. We are headed for 1,000 subscriptions and I know we'll get there before the end of the year and even much more. So having discussed the subject of growing old gracefully, there is a matter that naturally came up, which is how to handle or how to deal with transition, transitionary periods of life, so that the next period is I grow old gracefully. If I fail to hold, to deal with the transition gracefully, there is no growing old gracefully, basically is the conversation that is happening here. But so today, I just want us to look at the issue of how to transition from one season to the other so that we continue to be successful, we continue to be fruitful. We read Psalm 92, verse 12 to 14, emphasis on verse 14 last time to say that they will continue to be fruitful, they will be fresh, and they will be green. That's what we were deeming growing old gracefully. Today, however, we want to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, which says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." This one I'll read it in Shona as well. It says, Mparidze 3 ndima yekutanga, chinhu chimwe nechimwe chino musi wacho, uye shoko rimwe nerimwe pasi pedenga rine nguva yaro. So, like I said, I realized, and as we were discussing as a team, with the Kitchen Sink, Premier Gang, we realized that, how do we handle these transitionary phases of life? And it's very important for us to know how to handle them because they can be hard. It can really be so difficult on a person. Some people struggle, growing from being a child to puberty. Some people, their journey, their experience of puberty is an upheaval. It is painful, it is stressful, and it's a period that somebody will tell you, I don't want to remember that phase. And yet for another person, it's so peaceful, it's quiet, it's just moving from one phase of life to the next. And then when people are settled, having gone through puberty, now you become a young adult. There's the next phase of life where, because from about 5-6 years of age to about 18 years, you are in high school, primary school, high school, whatever it is. Then beyond that, you do university. Those are your learning years. And as you come out of the learning years to become a young adult, you enter into what they call the earning years, as in getting some kind of income for yourself. We also know that people are struggling even with those earning years. There are no jobs in our region, in Zimbabwe right now. What they deem to be our unemployment rate it can't be unemployment rate, otherwise we'd be dead, all of us by now. And we know that the informal sector, that which sometimes statistics is not so easy to get, and document, it's what is keeping us going. All our children who are coming out of universities, of colleges, they are being, taken care of in the informal sector. They have to be entrepreneurs. They have to be assertive. They have to be, people who are able to create employment for themselves. And that season is very stressful. Right now in Zimbabwe, we have many young men, young women who are suffering from stress because of the pressures of that phase. And unbecoming of anyone, you can't continue to remain single because you are not employed. Eventually, you find a partner, to start a marriage with. That's a phase, another transitionary phase of life that you are now entering into. Regardless of the fact of whether financially you are ideally supposed to be taking that next big step, but people are taking that big step. They're getting married, they are not financially prepared, they may be mentally and emotionally prepared, but by and large, they are not financially prepared. And they find themselves, that's a new chapter. And you need to transition into that chapter. And the chapter of marriage has so much baggage. Learning, belonging for a woman, going to a new family, belonging to a new family, new set of relationships. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And over and above issues of relationships, here comes children. You have to know parenting, something that nobody ever is schooled for before it comes on the scene. And you find yourself, you are loaded, you are a new, in-law, you have new children, and that complicates the whole matter. And you would think, okay, this is it, now I've mastered, parenting life. No, those children grow up, phase into phase, and whereas you start parenting a little child, they will grow to become an infant, a toddler, a junior school, high school. They themselves will also go to university, and they will bring to you different set of challenges every time that they are growing up. As they grow, you are growing. You find yourself in the phase of retirees, those that are deemed older. Each phase has its own challenges, and we need to know how to handle these transitionary phases of life. It is not sin. Bible actually says there is a time for every purpose under the sun. There was a time when I was young. There was sufficient grace for when I was young. There was a time that I had grown up. There was sufficient grace for when I had grown up. There is time that I'm in now, which I deem to be entering into my twilight years as an elderly woman. There is grace sufficient for this phase as well. The only issue that troubles us with these phases as life changes is how do we handle change? And many a times we resist change as people. Hence the problems many a times. You want to remain at a certain stage, particularly if that stage was successful for you. You want to stay there, you find yourself, you are stuck in that phase. There are some people who were traumatized as children, and in an effort to manage their own minds, how they processed that trauma, they are stuck in that phase. They are growing older chronologically, they are an adult woman, an adult man, but their mind, their experiences, their way of processing life challenges, they are stuck in that phase due to that childhood trauma. And so there's a disparity as to how somebody will handle the transitions of life. You will succeed in other aspects of life, but somebody will suffer in other aspects of life. Particularly if you look at somebody's IQ, they will be successful academically because the IQ continues to develop and to grow. But behaviorally, they will suffer a lot. And they will struggle to embrace change in their way of there is a way of behavior that is acceptable for a toddler, which is not acceptable for a 10-year-old child. There is a way of behavior that is acceptable for a teenage child, which is not acceptable for them as a young adult or a fully fledged adult. There is an expectation of conduct for me as an elderly woman than there is for a younger woman. All these things become successful as one is able to embrace change. So, what do we do to embrace these changes? We have to acknowledge that there is an element of loss of control with these changes as they happen. Yes, you are the one who will choose to marry, for example. You choose to go to university, for example. But a lot of the things that then happen thereafter, they are out of control. Life just happens. As the sun goes down, you wake up the next morning, the sun has risen, and life is just going. So there's an element where sometimes with change, there's a sense that you've lost control. Don't worry. It's just what happens with change. Another description with change comes the element of uncertainty. I do not know. Hey, tell me this one for retirees. I do not know how we will live and cope as retirees. So much uncertainty. The other aspect is you can actually go into grief mode when you are struggling to embrace change. You grieve that which you deem to be a loss in your life. People will wonder, why is she so grumpy? Why is she so depressed? Why are there so much mood changes? Because you are grieving, coming out of your comfortable, period of life, entering into the next, which is full of uncertainty. And therein comes the issue of the fear of the unknown. So all these aspects, they come to us as changes happen, as we transition from one season of life to the next. So it is very important for us to know, how do I cope in these seasons of life? Mairangana, you have described it, you have repeated yourself, but how do I cope? Are we able to cope? Yes, there is hope for us. We can cope with the changes that happen in life. Suddenly, a young man who was free, a bachelor, a freelance, doing life their own way, they are pinned down because now there is a woman in his life. How does one cope with change? You have to be able to be willing to seek support, to be open for it. If we use the example of marriage, before you even enter into that marriage, go through premarital counseling. That helps prepare you, gives you the tools, the handles to deal with life challenges for the next chapter. So seek support even for other issues of life, like you are finishing university, you are now planning to enter the job market. Seek counseling. All university colleges have designated counselors on campus, career guides on campus. Make use of all those things. That's what is going to help deal with stress and pressures in your life as you transition into the season of job hunting and joining the marketplace. The other thing that is very important for you to prepare when your seasons are changing is self-care. Take care of your physical and emotional well-being. Exercising. There is no age at which exercise is no longer necessary. You need to continually exercise, be ambulant, up and about. Do something to ensure that your body is exercised physically. Some are blessed, they take it to greater heights. But some of us, we do it to keep fit. And that is more than enough. Walking is recommended. 30 minutes every day. I hear people talk of 10,000 steps every day. Very, very important. I learned many years ago, and please don't take this as gospel. My nutritionist told me that as long as you walk continually, say for about an hour, that's what matters. Sometimes it's not so much in the exertion where you do power walking or you are jogging or you are running or you are doing, those huge exercises. Sometimes the benefit is in the diligence, consistency, and just knowing that I'm doing enough to keep myself fit. Set yourself realistic expectations in life. You know, the young men, young women, they're raring to go. They want to conquer the world. If you fail to conquer that world, that's another complication, another topic for discussion. If you come out braced for success, you hit a brick wall, you fail. We will discuss also how to handle failure in another video. So set realistic expectations, that which you know you are able to achieve. It will encourage you to go to the next step. If you can create a plan for your expectations, something simple, how am I going to do it? Am I able to do it? What are the necessary, the requisite resources for what I want to do? And stay flexible, hey? Particularly at our age, the retirees, stay flexible. If the challenge is too much and the stamina is not sufficient to support the challenge, then you have to be flexible and be willing to change. It becomes very important for us to be fluid and flexible. And throughout this journey, focus on that which is positive. I said it in the last video that pessimism, grumpy people, very unpleasant to be with. We have to be positive. We have to practice being mindful of who we are and what we are about. This will help us, as we transition from one phase to the other. Family, I said we have to acknowledge when a season is changing. Even looking at the example of a little baby, I have my grandson. When he arrived on the scene, we were holding him a certain way and there was no resistance. That was it for him. Around the 4 months mark, he started resisting that position. Now you can't put him in that position. Why? Seasons have changed. He wants to be upstanding. He wants to be sitting. He wants to be doing things that are consistent with his age where he is now. Who are we to stay in one stage? Who are we to want to stay in one season of life? It can't. There are people who love summer so much. No matter how much you love it, summer will come, summer will go. And before you know it, it's winter time. So let's learn how to embrace all the seasons of life. Let's have grace for each season of life. And particularly those of us that are retiring. We need grace to handle this season. Thank you. Please continue to circulate them and let's have conversations. Ask each other, are you coping in this season? If so, how are you coping? I'll give you a little story before I go. A sister of mine retired recently. And we realized she had been working, as a civil servant faithfully for 43 years. And suddenly she was having to retire. As a group of sisters, we came alongside. 2 weeks before retirement, we agreed, let's be praying every day in the final week towards retirement. We met, virtually, and we prayed for different aspects of retirement. And we emphasized and re-emphasized that, my sister, welcome. Welcome to this phase. We need to be conscious. We need to be prepared. We need to apply ourselves to the changes that happen in our lives. The day that she finished work, had to go back to the office to leave a few things, you will not believe it. Having been in that workplace for 43 years, she had to have security to go back into her office. But because she had been adequately prepared, it was not traumatic for her. Because how traumatizing is it? The same office, the same people that you lived with for so long, They have to see you being accompanied by a security guard. Guys, let's be prepared for changes. Transition happens, change happens, but we have to prepare for it. My sister is happy, and we are all happy that she has retired successfully. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please continue to subscribe, comment, share, like, and let's keep talking. Thank you. See you in the next video.